Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Public Allies. I'm your host for today's roundtable on employment and reemployment. My name is Ayesha Sardar, and I'm here with three amazing experts who are going to be talking about employment. They have knowledge in the employment field, which I'll shortly introduce with their bio. But what today I wanted to say welcome back after the summer because it's been some time since I have hosted a roundtable. So employment is such a close topic to everyone. Creating jobs is a keystone of any economy and economic recovery program. Many activities can fall under the job creation area, including immediate short-term opportunities that yield quick impact, or the development of more enduring livelihoods in the civil service or private sector. It is important to distinguish between these different activities, recognizing the sustainability and long-term impact that it has on every generation. Providing jobs is vital on many levels. Politically, employment opportunities give the population a stake in the peace process by providing young men and women with alternatives to violence, or with channeling their energies. Economically, employment provides income to poor families, revives domestic demand for goods and services, and stimulates overall growth. Socially, employment can also promote social healing, encourage the return of displaced people, improve social welfare in the long run. For many of us, although employment, having a profession, is an identity. So it becomes so important for people to have that employment. And due to COVID, we have seen many of us have been unemployed. So today, what we are going to be talking about is how to re-enter the market, how to have that re-employment, how to start fresh, or how to go back to what we knew. So going by alphabetical order, let me introduce our experts today. Starting with Amanda CUPIDO. She's the founder of Lead Podcasting. She's an award-winning podcast producer, university instructor, and author of Let's Talk Podcasting, the essential guide to doing it right. She has been creating podcasts for leaders and organizations for more than a decade. Her expertise is built upon her background in corporate communications and radio journalism. Amanda has a master's in psychology of leadership from Penn State University and a bachelor of journalism from Ryerson University. Welcome, Amanda.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming. Second, we have MONISHA. MONISHA Singh. MONISHA holds an MBA from Smith School of Business, Queen's University, Ontario, and an undergraduate degree in Bachelor of Fashion Technology from National Institute of Fashion Technology, Mumbai, India. Currently, MONISHA is working as a senior consultant strategy for fraud management team at CIBC, where she thrives on putting strategy together for ambiguous strategic problems. While working at the bank is her day job, she is passionate about helping and supporting newcomers to Canada and women empowerment. She is an active mentor at organizations that support newcomers and refugees to help them navigate and prepare for Canadian job market. Outside of work, she enjoys exploring the city, cooking, and dancing. Welcome, MONISHA.
So much, Public Allies, for having me today.
Last but not least, we have Tracy Reese. Tracy, I always introduce you at the end because your name starts with a T. Next time we'll go the other way.
That's okay.
Okay.
I love
Tracy,
listening to the others.
Yes, absolutely. And then you have a wonderful bio too. I'm always like flabbergasted after seeing it, and I go back and learn more about you. Tracy Reese is a life strategist, success practitioner, and integrated nutrition health coach. He works from a capacity building lens, supporting self-empowerment, whereby individuals take control of their health, wealth, success, and happiness. Tracy holds a master practitioner certification in neuro-linguistic programming with NLP Canada. He's certified personality profile analysis practitioner from Thomas International and is also an integrative nutrition health coach with the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. As a life strategist, success practitioner, and health coach, Tracy utilizes a practical and holistic approach to individualized client well-being. His understanding, patience, calmness, coupled with his confident demeanor, has aided him for decades in supporting people as they journey through their life changes. Welcome, Tracy.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So if I have missed anything, please feel free to add.
That was
Nothing?
perfect.
Nope.
Where
You
did you
nailed
pull it
it.
from?
Yeah, but seriously, guys, I had to shorten it. You all know, because we cannot use all your bio here. I want to keep it as short as possible, but we have your contact on the video under the comment section. People can go connect with you, or they can go look at your bio. So please go ahead and do that. Okay, let's start with our roundtable now. So, like I was saying, employment is an important part of everybody's life, right? So sometimes, people identify themselves not with their personality, but with their profession. I've heard so many people talk about when you're asked, well, can you tell me about yourself? Even if you're in a social gathering, people tend to talk about their profession. People tend to introduce themselves with their profession, right? It is that important. So with COVID, a lot of things changed, right? We saw many people getting into self-employment, and we saw many people getting unemployed. So our first question focuses on that. We want to know what the new employment market is going to look like. Like, is there room for everyone in this employment market? If so, why? And if not, who are those that are going to be most impacted? So let's start alphabetically. Amanda, you want to go first?
Sure thing. Thanks. What a great opening question. So right out of the gate, I just want to, I'm a positive spin kind of person. So I do definitely think there's going to be room for everyone. And just as there were jobs being lost, there were also a lot of jobs being created. And just within my industry of podcasting, we saw a huge uptick in the podcasting space. So that's just one example of many. But with regard to employment in general, I think what a lot of people need to prepare for is the word we've all heard too much of, pivoting. But I think that we have to wrap our heads around, we've maybe been tied to a certain job that was tied to our identity so strongly, and just loosening that grip a bit and repositioning our mind to inviting something else in. And drawing upon my master's in the psychology of leadership, we know with teams and we know with people who are engaged employees that are asking to make a shift, there's 3 reasons why people will hesitate to shift. One of them is because it morally does not align with what they believe in. That's really hard to shake. And if something isn't morally aligning, then it's best you walk away or avoid that shift. It's going to be hard to rally yourself or your team around something that doesn't align with them morally. Second off is that they don't actually believe in the shift itself. And that means, and I encourage everyone who's watching to look in themselves and was there a job that came up and they thought, I'm not going to apply for it? And why was that the reaction? Or did they think that they weren't qualified enough, or do they not believe in the role? And so those are the other 2. So one of them is that you don't actually have the stats to believe that this role is going to make a difference. This shift in the organization is going to work. And in that case, you need to do proper research and make a really sound, educated decision if you're prepared for that shift and you believe in it. And then the third one, comes down to a confidence piece. Are you resisting the shift because you just don't have the self-confidence? And if that's the case, you're going to take a very different approach than if it was one of the other 2 pieces. And you're going to try to really look inwards and say to yourself, what can I do to help boost my confidence, to position me to be ready for this shift. So these might be things that make total sense, but I felt like having it broken down into one of those 3 tracks really landed with me when I was learning about it. I'm really happy to share that. And maybe as we're reflecting on either our teams or our own personal situations, that will help prepare you for what's next in the chapter of your employment.
Absolutely. Some wonderful points. And, I am a positive believer too, and I feel everybody has a chance. It's like you said, believe in yourself and believe what you're doing is the right thing to do, and believe in your strengths. There are so many strengths. Don't look at your weaknesses. Everybody has those, but focus on your strengths, right? Wonderfully said, Amanda. Thank you so much. Monisha, go ahead.
How will I follow up with that wonderful and brilliant answer? I do agree with Amanda and Ayesha, you as well, that there is always when a change comes in an employment industry, I think the skills change. It's not that jobs never vanish from the world. It would just be the skills would change. So for example, I'll take a very funny example, and because I was recently watching Downton, and these cooks in the kitchen, they would see this machines coming into the kitchen and they would say our jobs will be gone. But guess what? They didn't. They just evolved, right? Now we use those tools and we have become much better cooks or chefs. Similar is the case right now. I think we need to be mindful when we are looking for employment. We need to make a shift, as Amanda mentioned, from the role to skills. We need to think about what skills we possess and how we can transition those skills into different sort of role that might be out there. That is one approach. And I always, when I mentor someone, they would be like, oh, I'm good with people, but I don't know how to apply these skills into HR, or not even HR, like analytics. And I'm like, why not? You will be interacting with your business folks and you would be talking and presenting your analysis with them. You need those people skills for that. So it's really the matter of identifying your skills. And the other thing is that while you're looking for economy in this, I think the major shift that in my opinion would come is gig economy. As you mentioned, a lot of people have started becoming self-employed. There would be a lot of potential of working virtually. So people need to start thinking about how they can become more comfortable with technology, especially at like we will be doing virtual interviews now most of the times. There is no limitation of borders that we can only hire people from certain geography. Today we can hire people from anywhere because we have seen that virtual world works. I don't want to say better, but it works. It is productive. So I think those are the 2-3 things that, in my opinion, that we need to keep in mind as we go out and look for employment. But there will be roles for everyone.
Amazing. We have a group of positive thinkers here, which I really like. But I like what you said. The focus has to be on skills, improving your skills. And for a long time, we have been talking about it, that, you need to keep learning. You need to keep updating yourself like you update your technology, which has become more evident and important during COVID. So yeah, Tracy, go ahead. Your turn.
Awesome. So I'll dovetail on both Moshe and Amanda. So absolutely, there is room for people in this economy, and just as Moshe had said, it becomes global, right? So you have the ability and the ability to expand. You have the ability to reach out where, if you are in one location, there are opportunities that are far and wide. So that's the first thing. And also, we hear the word pivot, and we have to pivot. The other word I like to use is being resourceful. We have so many skills and we're quite resourceful. There are things around us, just alone, that this situation has allowed individuals to step back, and now some are baking a little bit more, some are, the different employments, things that they used to do or they feel comfortable and they love to do. They had the opportunity to do that, which leads to understanding your behavioral patterns. So you're not just picking up and going to a job just because it's a it gives me money, but I don't like it. You want to find, and you're looking for a job that fits into one, your skill set, but more importantly, it works with your behavior. So why I say that is because as a practitioner in behavioral profiling, the DISC profiling, it works with and it talks about your personality style. So you're going to look at your personality style and the job in itself, because when those two are compatible, the small little things, we're all going to change, we're going to adjust. But those small little things become less of a nuisance, less of an irritation, less resistance, as what Amanda was saying. You resist less to it just because of the fact that it is close to your style of how you work. And there are a number of opportunities, number of employment out there that are looking for people, and they'd rather have that than having to go and spend, at the minimum $6,000 in order for this hiring process, when there are people who are presently there that have the ability and the skills. So I always, when I work with small businesses, it's about putting the individual on the right seat on the bus. So you're looking for that seat that you're going to be able to stretch, you're going to grow, but where you are going to be comfortable, because comfort is where things get done. Where great things happen is when we step outside of our comfort zone. That's when greatness happens. So sometimes it's being comfortable and then being able to expand.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That actually, makes so much sense what everybody said. Like, thinking about the skills, believing in yourself, and then taking comfort in your own personality, like, relaxing and thinking about how you're going to move forward. So all that said, how is it going to look for new immigrants or refugees, which we are going to have, for single parents? Because during COVID, we've seen that, it has been tough for everyone. They've been balancing work and life, right? So is it going to be the same for them, or is it going to look different? Monisha, you want to go?
Sure. So I think one of the key things that we need to keep in mind, especially because I'm working with immigrants, newcomers to Canada, and refugees, is the fact, especially for I would say till June of this year, was the abundance of folks with similar skills because they lost their job during COVID. And so I think it is settling now. I have to still go back to my leaders and my peers to see how they are experiencing that. But what I was hearing until June was that for one job, they're receiving unprecedented amount of applications. And when we are newcomers and refugees, uh, we need to first of all understand how the employment market works here. What are the things that we look for in resumes? Simple things like ATS scanners. We need to know about that. So I think those are some things that the refugees and newcomers need to research. Um, I think the best way is to be part of certain organizations that help these refugees and newcomers, because they give a lot of resources around not only resume building, because that is very different versus when you're coming from, say, another part of the world, but also interviewing skills and like networking, which is also very key here, right? So and other aspect that I think Tracy sort of touched upon was today, especially based on my experience at CIBC and other banks and other big organizations, they realized and they took a pause during COVID and they realized they have abundance of talents within their organizations. So they started moving people internally versus posting jobs externally, right? So that is another sort of, I would say, short-term challenge that would be there. But having said that, I think we will get there in terms of like job opportunities coming in, because I've already started seeing people getting jobs which were not there 3 months ago.
Yeah, you actually touched upon my second question, which was about challenges. So you can also, Tracy, when you start talking about new immigrants or single parents or that, you can also talk about what would be the challenges that employees are going to face when they re-enter the market or when they are going for re-employment or employment. Go ahead.
Yeah, so when we're looking at the immigrants and or let's start with single parents who are presently here.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times the single parents were and are stretched thin. So they have been trying in so many different ways of reaching out and taking their kids to this program, and trying to give them the best, but they're spreading thin. This opportunity has allowed it to really look and take stock at the things that are really important. So instead of putting it in maybe 5 or 6 different programs or running around, now you're taking stock and now you are, one, thinking about those 2 or 3. You're having conversations with your kids and real conversation, which is great to say, okay, these are a couple of things that we're looking at. Which one are you comfortable with? Which one do you really want to do? So now the child is involved in the process, opens the communication, and then it also allows them to select and where their money is going and their time is going. It's putting into those things that are really important. So that's an important lesson for the kids, and to know that this is what they're looking at. When you're mentioning about the immigrants who are coming in, the immigrants have a fantastic opportunity because of the fact that they have been through some different challenges to get here. So while they are here at times, then all of the things that are coming and the resourcefulness, the creativity that is present in them, those are some of the skills and the behaviors that they are able to bring to the different opportunities and jobs. And the important thing is, I always go back to resources. This platform is a resource to find out what is out there. And it's really finding out what is out there, because there are so many programs that are there to assist to navigate some of the things. It's an overwhelming feeling when you're here, regardless of whether you're immigrant or not, and you're trying to find the different pieces. So having support and having someone or individual or groups to help you navigate taking a look at things is paramount. So if it call it a challenge in itself is, being able to look at those, find where those resources are, and stepping out into that space and navigate and finding your way around. The internet has provided with so many different opportunities that there are things that are at your fingertips, and utilizing that in order to, before you'd have to go to like 5 or 6 different offices and you're walking here spending time, but you have the opportunity now to pick 1, 2, or 3, reaching out and making your efforts and your movements purposeful instead of all the way around.
Absolutely. So well put. I don't have anything to add to that, Tracy. So Amanda, go ahead. What do you think would be the challenges, and how can single parents and new immigrants deal with that?
Yeah, well, I'll start off by echoing some sentiments from someone I actually recently interviewed on a podcast. His name was Pedro Barada. He's the executive director of the Future Skills Center at Ryerson. And so he actually does research on trends. And one thing that really stuck out to me was that he says the pandemic has accelerated 3 mega trends. One of them being technology and innovation. That's probably a no-brainer. Yeah. The second one was policy shifts towards sustainable, climate conscious, green way of living, which was a long time coming. But the third was immigration. And I think this is important to note, because the trend means that he's talking about the landscape within Canada right now, we do have an aging population. Boomers are getting older and exiting the job market, and we are going to have soon an influx of jobs that we will need to fill. And in some areas like cybersecurity, Canada has openings that they simply cannot fill. There's apparently 10,000 jobs at any given time that cannot be filled in cybersecurity in Canada. And because of this, the government is going to probably be shifting its policies around, even looking at immigrants and newcomers to Canada and honoring their credentials that they are bringing from their home country. And something as simple as that is going to make re-entering or getting into the job market a whole lot easier. So being mindful of these trends, lobbying where you can, of course, and also, for people like me who are passionate about being allies to those who are in that position, lean on people like us to help kind of fight for you. It's something that I've been quite passionate about. And I do think that that's going to only shift towards a more positive and promising job landscape and application landscape. So I know that's talking more at a high level, but I do think that that's worth noting, and something that, again, kind of gives a bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, or a flame of hope within you.
Believe me, a lot of people must be really looking forward to those security jobs that you're talking about. Maybe some of them will go and update their skills and get those jobs. So that was wonderful information. Thank you, Amanda, for that. Now, we spoke about the challenges that the employees are going to face. Now, there is a difficult situation for the employers too, right? When you are rehiring, or when you're hiring for the same jobs, now the skill set that you need for those jobs might be different from what it was. So the challenge here would be like, do you hire the employees who were in the job before pandemic, or do you hire new employees with the right skills? So how should they go about it? That's my question. Tracy, you're going first this time.
Okay. So if we're speaking,
what is your suggestion to them?
Well,
what do you
speaking from an employer lens, then the first thing is they really need to figure out the jobs themselves, the jobs that they have right now that are necessary, because they've been overlapping. There has been a great deal of overlapping. So it's finding out, one, the jobs that are necessary. Two, you're looking at the individuals who are presently in the space, like as part of your organization. And you're looking at that to see, again, as I mentioned before, what skill sets do they have? Who can move, who can shift, who really wants to be there? There are some people who will not go back. I've spoken to some individuals and said that, you know what, they like working from home, they don't want to go back, or they are the ones that are leaving to find something that they're really passionate about. So as one person leaves, it opens up opportunities. So if you already have individuals who are part of your organization and now you're putting them in the right seat on the bus, now that's opened up room for the people to fill in that space, fill in those opportunities. So the employers, they also will need to really think about training. Training is absolutely, that was paramount before, and it kind of slid slightly because then everything was moving at a rapid pace. We may not have enough time to train you, so we'll do partly and then we'll let you go, and then it's kind of, you're along the road, you're bumping and maybe. So training is absolutely important. So with that training aspect, the individuals who are coming in, they get the proper training. Even that mentoring situation where you have individuals who are presently there that was in that job, you're doing that mentoring process. It builds a team environment. And any team that comes together and working together towards to a goal, then there is more success in that respect. So those aspects for the employers, I work with small businesses, that's small to medium-sized businesses, and the owners, the employees, they're wearing like 5 or 6 different hats. So then it's really taking some of that off of them, and it becomes sometimes you're splitting time, but you're taking some of that pressure off of, and it's almost now it becomes like you're specializing, and you're specializing in those different jobs or sectors. And the one thing I'll end with this is that your employees are your greatest asset. People always look at, customer is always right. Your employee is the greatest asset. So then train your employees, treat them, teach them. They're going to turn around and exemplify what that company stands for. You will have more people engaging with them. So then now that company is stronger. So that's the focus is really on those aspects of them, shifting people around so where they are comfortable. It opens up opportunities for people and specializing as they are coming in order to help that the company succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with everything that you said. Like, even on-job trainings could help, right? And then analyzing what are the gaps, what do they need? And obviously it is like self-development, not only for the employees, but it is a development as a whole for the company as well. So employers have to start thinking about that. Go ahead, Amanda, it's your turn. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I'll take the angle of talking about remote work, because I think as an employer myself, being able to embrace remote work and have more people set up and comfortable with remote work allows for my pool of candidates to be really wide. And I'm allowed actually to be a bit picky now, more picky than I would have been previously with choosing my employees. But that benefit for an employer, it goes both ways. This is also opening up opportunities for people applying for jobs, right? So people who are in remote places in Canada are not now able to work for an organization in Toronto without having to worry about commuting in. And so I think that's a true win-win. And not to say that working remotely is going to be the answer for everyone, but what I do think is that it's going to allow for employers to get some really well-suited candidates to fill job openings. And it's going to allow for people applying for jobs to be able to pick something that's not purely based on the vicinity of where they live. And truly, overall, I think this is going to help Canada's economy, help how people are placed into jobs, and help organizations thrive. It's truly a win-win all around. And I'm actually excited to see how that's going to change the job market in the years to come. And of course, that's not a sweeping statement. There will definitely still be jobs that require people to come in, but this sort of a shift, how fast that shift happened over the pandemic, it's going to be a noticeable difference in the months and years to come.
Yeah. Yes, the people who like remote jobs, people who like to work from home are definitely going to like what you're saying. MONISHA, go ahead. What do you have to say?
So in terms of challenges that employers face now, more than like thinking about the skills, because the skills are there, and if they aren't, folks would train and get those skills. So I think that is something I want to keep aside, but I want to start the conversation where Amanda left, remote working. I was reading an article, I think it was on LinkedIn, where it said that employers who do not adapt to this flexible, remote, flexible timing working would lag behind, and people will not find those employers as best choice or best employer to work for. So it is now upon the employers to entice employees, because we have so many flexible options. I think a couple of years ago, when we think about flexibility, it was all about timing, but now we have the flexibility of location, and not just location within Canada, but probably geographically across the world. So I think employers, big organizations need to work with governments to also sort of understand and work around how they can make these opportunities available in a better way and in a sort of smoother
have a smoother process for that, right? So that they can entice best employees that are suited for those roles, and then also open more and more opportunities for different employees. I think, yeah, and I think apart from that, I would just want to add in terms of challenges for these folks is to now have like trained managers to sort of have that unconscious bias training to hire the right employee, because I think that is key now, given the amount of pool that they would face. They should be able to set their biases aside and hire the right person versus, getting their bias hinder the hiring process. So they need to train managers and hiring people in the right way to hire, including training them for unconscious bias.
Awesome. Some wonderful insights. But it makes me think when you talk about remote work and when you're talking about, how it is important for the skills and how employers have to train. I feel, the socializing aspect is lost when you're working remotely, right? And the team building that we talk about, because you're just not employees, you work as a team, and when you're not seeing each other, you're not meeting each other, it becomes a little bit difficult, right? You don't know, probably you've never seen your colleagues or the people you work with. And thirdly, very important, they say when you're working together, you also become kind of a support system for each other. So that is also lost. So how does it affect the mental health of both employers and employees? That's my next question. And Amanda, you're going first.
Sure, thanks. I think it's an important question, of course, and this is more top of mind now than ever. I was someone who worked remotely before the pandemic. So I was actually having these conversations at a much smaller scale when hiring people and with building that team rapport when it was because I was working for an international aid organization. And so there are a lot of these things and these challenges are actually not new. They feel new to a lot of people, but they are not new. And there's actually been a lot of research done in how to best meet these challenges. And so one thing right out of the gate, an easy tactic that people can walk away with is understanding that face-to-face is really important, but it doesn't necessarily need to be consistent. And so seeing someone at the office every single day maybe felt like the norm and what was needed, and then having it being so drastically taken away, it feels like there's a large loss. But the cadence and the pacing that we had intentionally chosen when I was working internationally was that we would meet 1 to 2 times per year. And so that meant that you were able to put a face to people's names. You could get a sense of people's mannerisms and energy and have some team bonding moments, very intentional team bonding moments in these 1 to 2 meetings we had throughout the year. And those would allow for people to connect and do their job seamlessly and work as a great team remotely, even without seeing each other. So something as simple as staggering meetings. And again, right now, I think I hear a lot of conversations of people saying, well, you have to come into the office once a week. We got to touch base and see where, and maybe that cadence is what feels comfortable or makes sense for certain organizations. But by and large, it does not actually have to be that often. I think it's just, we talk about building teams and the forming and norming processes that happen when teams are coming together for the first time. And we want to let that happen in a way that's organic, and having it happen to face is great, especially when a new team member joins. So, that's one element as far as the team building capacity goes. And then, with maintaining that, you want to give them a space where they feel comfortable to be themselves so that they're not purely corresponding. They want to be able to have those water cooler chats without the water cooler. And so, I also worked with an organization that implemented Facebook for workplace. And so now you have a social media platform where people are able to post about their families and like videos and share memes and do all of those fun things that they would have done otherwise, but online. And so giving employees that opportunity is also really important. So we have our face-to-face meeting, we have our space to talk about things other than work. That's a safe space and that's encouraged and not looked down upon. And then with regard to the mental health piece, this is something that I actually think the pandemic really helped, which was that a lot of mental health support moved to being online. That was something that was very tough in Canada. A lot of doctors would have never met you on a phone call, let alone a video call. Records were not even kept online. And so I think that push to getting services and support available online that happened during the pandemic is only going to allow for more resources for people to get that support that they need in the time and way that they need it. And so even just as simple as, my phone provider, this was not a thing before the pandemic, but now my phone provider with my business account, I have a virtual mental health 12 sessions I can have virtually with someone. And this is not even from a doctor's office. This is now just being offered through phone providers. And again, I think that's in response to what was happening during the pandemic. And so always going back to my positive outlook, but truly like these are signs that I'm seeing a shift. And so I think that we're actually going to see more resources available. It's on employees to be able to take advantage of those resources, like Tracy's always saying, and employers to make sure that they're well-versed, that they're providing that and being that facilitator even and making those resources known and shared and accessible, but they are there. So to me, I think there's a lot of positive movement in that sense.
Awesome. I agree. Tracy, what do you think? What is the mental health? How is it going to affect the employers, if at all it affects?
Well, it definitely has affected and it will. And the first part is it works on how individuals actually work. There are some individuals that need that structure, need to be in an office environment, because we've all heard, people getting up and, first it's the phone rings and then, they walk away and then come back and then, their kids or something happens or they're like, I'm online, and the productivity of it, right? So not everyone can work remotely. It has that capacity to work remotely individually. And it's not necessarily saying that they need someone on them, but they need a structure. And, we talk virtually and, even just getting up and knowing that you're going to get up and you're going to drive to the office, it's that break from your environment. That environment that you have now has become everything. It's become your office. It's your home where you sleep, you eat. So you need that separation. You need the ability to, so that in itself, in terms of when we're saying mental health, it's getting that in place and understanding back to behavior and what works and what doesn't work for you. We all know what works for us because we are bio individuals. We are individuals, and what works for one may not work for the other, but it becomes effective. And just like Amanda was saying, there's a lot of assistance there. There has always been, but individuals didn't really take the time to go and get massages or get the things that are present as part of their health packages. It was just like, I'm just going to work and I'm going to work, I'm going to work. But now, even the employers sending chairs home and setting them up in a comfortable situation, in a situation where it is, in terms of ergonomic, we're not designed to sit at a table with, a poor, like a chair that was designed for sitting and having a meal for an hour, right? So those things, the employers are looking at, how can I serve the employees? How can I put other things involved? And I know that employers, because I've been asked to do like workshops with stretching and strengthening and giving those breaks and stuff like that. So the employers are looking at those things in order to service and to help aid the employees as they are transitioned. And it's change. You know, Amanda spoke about it. You know, people are resistant about change because it's the fear of what is going to happen. So with that, to easing some of those fears, providing those, you know, the face-to-face. I'm a big believer in face-to-face. I'm a big believer in getting together and connecting, because there's something energetic when two people or more are in an area. There is there's an energy that happens. So I'm a big believer in that. However, what also is the other part is of that is virtually you're going to do what you need to do. However, in that whole space, you're able to connect in some different ways. So those are the impacts, like for the employer, putting those packages, helping the employees see that, checking in on the employees, and for the employees, again, it always comes back to knowing thyself, right? Knowing yourself and being honest and assessing yourself. And then from there, you're going to move in a direction. You're going to move in the direction that serves you. And once it serves you, you turn around and serve others, because you are fully engaged, because you have, you know, you are there and present.
Yeah. It's so true. Like, you know, it is going to affect, like, you know, like you said, I feel like, you know, there has to be a balance of both. But let's hear it from Monisha, what she has to say.
Because my journey before pandemic was very different from Amanda. So I was someone who would always go into workplace to work. I needed that structure, as Tracy was mentioning. So for me, the transition into remote, I actually felt it took a toll on me mentally. But then going back to what Tracy was mentioning was knowing yourself. And I think for me, it was a self-exploration exercise to figure out what works for me, and how I can use this tiny space in a way that it doesn't hinder with my mental health, like it doesn't make me demoralized, right? So I think I started working to figure out what works for me. So I did tiny changes, like, and I think Tracy and Amanda mentioned it's on sort of us to take that control over our mental health, right? It's not always easy, but if we start taking small steps towards that, that would help. So for instance, one of the things that my husband and I did was he would just, at 5 p.m., he would just say, let's go for a walk. And we would just disconnect, because that was changing the space from this basement apartment to outside. So that helped to reset a lot of those demotivating feelings that I was having. On the other hand, I do agree with Tracy and Amanda that employers now more than ever have the onus to have these mental health type of programs tied into their employee development programs as well. Like, it cannot be disconnected. They have to be tied together. And managers, if you are a people leader, you have to check in with your team. You have to check in how the team is doing. They are working. Everyone is responsible and they would work, but some people might just overwork themselves and they might not be realizing. So it's always good to check now and then that how are you doing? I hope you're not working late every day, or I hope whatever structure works for you. So for instance, what I mean by that, for me, I log in at 8 or 9 and I want to work straight through. For some people that doesn't work, they might need to take breaks, but ultimately it should be working for them, and the manager needs to keep checks on that. And of course, go out and take opportunities of all the programs that are out there through your health benefit, through Government of Canada, through your employer. There are helpline numbers. There are people who would be happy to get on a call and talk to you. There are therapists available. Take opportunities and talk to people. I think that's the best way to overcome whatever challenges you might be facing.
Yeah, Amazing. Some very good points, all of you. And I agree, like, there are people who know themselves and there are people who don't know. For example, there is a lot of anxiety, there is a lot of stress and loneliness attached to remote working. If you know how to counter it, if you know how to overcome that, then it's not going to be a problem. And also, we keep talking about work and life balance, right? Some people don't know how to switch off. They keep working straight, or they don't know, they are always stressed because they're managing both the things at the same time. They're managing work and they're managing kids at home, or especially when it comes to single parents, it's a tough job, right? Like you said, Amanda, having those cooler talks becomes so important. As soon as you step into the office, you switch off, you forget what was happening at home. And when you enter home, you would switch off from office. So if people know how to work around that, that's wonderful. For employers, we are adding more jobs because we need more mentors and we need more psychologists, counselors to train, to help, to keep talking to these people who are working from home. So here you go, employers, just hire more people. That's all you have to do. You don't have to check in on everyone. You can hire people to check in on everyone. So we are creating jobs here on this platform.
So if I can just add in one just quick thing, and off of what MONISHA was saying is boundaries, right? That's a key thing, what you had mentioned, and setting boundaries to say, okay, you know what, 5 o'clock, I'm gonna turn off my computer, I'm gonna go for a walk. It's easy to roll out of bed like at 7 o'clock and it's like, what do? I'm at the office, and you can start working because you're engaged. And that's great that you love your job and you're engaged about it. But it's setting those boundaries is key to work-life balance, relationships, all of those things, knowing and setting a boundary, and know when you're close to that, when you're stepping over that. That's the mental health challenge, because you've stepped over that boundary and you're trying to get back, but you're not sure what it is. So it's just holding that boundary and be comfortable and confident in that space.
Yeah. One thing that COVID helped with is people talking about mental health. Otherwise, it was such a difficult topic for everyone. It became very easy where everybody said, okay, I'm feeling lonely, I'm feeling stressed, I'm anxious right now. So in that way, it was really nice. But then it triggered a lot of issues too. People who didn't realize that they can be triggered. It triggered a lot of mental health issues. So yes, everybody has to be careful, like MONISHA, Tracy, and Amanda said, set boundaries, know what is your preference and go for it. If you want to go to office once a week, go ahead. If you want to stay at home and you know how to have that work-life balance, go ahead. Whatever you prefer, right? As long as you have a good mental health, anything goes. Okay, we have spoken about the challenges, we have spoken about the skill set, we have spoken about mental health. Now tell me, how do we improve the employment? And are we ready? Like, are the universities, are the schools ready to train the population for the next level, to upgrade, to update? Or what is required by the government or by employers to do going into the what are the solutions basically for employment and re-employment? How can we increase employment? So who wants to go first for this one? Just go. MONISHA, you want to go? I can't hear you. Okay.
Can you still not hear me? Okay. One of the things that I think when you talked about universities and employers, I think they need to come together and talk about what are the skills, what are the qualities, certifications, degrees are they looking for. I think based on my experience so far, they do talk, but it's not an open and transparent conversation. I think they need to sort of have that in a forum to understand where is the skill set going and what can the universities do. Based on my conversation with Queens, I have sort of found that every year they have an assessment to see what kind of skills are the companies looking, and they introduce a new program for that. But then they're not getting rid of the old programs. So are the old programs still valuable, right? Do we need to merge them with the new programs? So those are the things I think they need to first of all figure out. I think universal, I just got confused with the question for a second there. So I think that is one thing that comes to my mind. And also when it comes to government, they have an oversight across like Canada, right? What's happening, what type of immigration is happening, what type of skills, and what type of, like, I think Amanda mentioned, cybersecurity. We know that today. What are we doing about it? Are we setting up programs and certifications to set employees up for success? Like, if we aren't, we should find that gap now and act upon it now, rather than waiting for a number of years and then sort of doing that backlog upgrade.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's what you need, like filling those gaps. Amanda, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll jump off on the cybersecurity example, and thanks for bringing it back up, Monisha. I think, so the reason why I even knew that stat was because I learned about a program very specific to help inject the Canadian workforce with more cybersecurity specialists, which is great, but it's such a small example and maybe 1 inch in the right direction, but we've got miles to go, so the program's targeting newcomers to Canada, and specifically women and people who are doing career changes. So if anyone who's watching this is interested in cybersecurity, I mean, go for it. It's called the Cybersecurity Catalyst, the Rogers Cybersecurity Catalyst. You can look it up. And it's a program that offers grants. So it's very accessible to also be admitted. And that is a prime example of moving the needle forward. We just need to see a whole lot more of it, right? So I'm really only able to think of this one example off the top of my head, but we need to have this flushed out. I know for a fact that I have peers who are in the coding and digital development space, and they cannot retain high quality employees because, number one, we don't have enough. And number two, there are so many more competitors that are able to, they're not only that they're not able to retain, they're not even able to hire. They're having to go across borders to hire because they just don't have enough grads in Canada who have the skill set. And when you're up against someone from the US, it's just a huge difference. And so this is going to take a lot of partners and people rallying together to fix these kinds of issues. Yes. Do the schools have an onus? For sure. Universities offering and promoting these sorts of programs. I do think the onus also lies on the government in being able to subsidize some of these programs, help with promotion of these programs. And then, of course, there comes the will from the people. And I guess this is a nice full circle for me, is being able to open, to pivot and change and try something new. And if you're hesitant to do it, take a deep reflection moment on yourself. Think about what's holding you back, target that, and then go. But I really do think that that's the core of it all. And a lot, there needs to be a lot more done to help shift this so that we can fill those gaps.
Absolutely. Assessing those gaps and then putting it out there for the people to see what is the requirement. So the grads, whoever are going into the education or who are relearning, who are going for re-employment or upgrading their skills, go and particularly upgrade their skills in those particular fields, right? So if everybody knew, like, some of the skills that are needed, Amanda, please update it on Public Allies. We would really want to put it across to our people. Yes, Tracy,
Great,
go ahead.
Will do.
So I'll say it quickly in just a couple of things. One is it's really from a foundational standpoint, because it's really about people and how you interact. It's environment. The universities have been behind forever. And the reason why I say that is because back in the day, your parents, my parents, it was 30 years you stayed at a job. And then, it was 15 years as a career. Now it's a 5-year. So you think about it, if you go into university year 1 as X, 5 years later, that changes. So they're always constantly having to adjust, because just like new phones, they come out every year. There are things that are changing. So the individuals, and back to what Amanda was saying, is if you assess yourself and know, and you have those confidence, that's the major skill set. Everything else you're able to work with, but because things are changing, so it's a 5-year or 5 to 7 years is a career, and then you're looking for another career, and so there is that shift. So the universities may not be able to catch up because they are always doing that. They will get there at some point because of the information and how it is and the demand. So the demand comes from you, me, and everyone else pushing towards a movement and asking. So we create that space. That space is there. We create the opportunities. We create those jobs. We create and going to the universities. Before, entrepreneurship was not in any university. Now, almost every university has an entrepreneurship program. So who created that? It's the individuals looking and seeking for more. So you have more opportunity, more power than you realize. They follow, just like the government. The government follows what that group is saying. So it's change is happening quicker because of cell phones, because we are sitting here, right? So think that that's the one thing. With that change, it's happening quickly. The people who can adapt, and we'll use the word that Amanda started with, pivot, and using those resources, those are the ones that will have a less challenging time entering the workforce, adjusting to the workforce, creating the workforce. That's where that power is. That's where the opportunity is.
Absolutely. And with COVID, there were a lot of industries which really needed to be looked at. For example, manufacturing, agriculture. So why are we not building those industries? Again, you cannot outsource everything. And during pandemic, when we had shortages, we all realized what a big mistake it is shutting down the manufacturing and only focusing on services. So I feel, it has to be looked into. We have to put more focus in those areas as well. And we have to look at the alternatives. I understand it is difficult for agricultural industry or farming in Canada during those winter months. But then there are a lot of alternatives that can be done. So I feel there is always a scope for growth if you are looking closely at it. So
yeah, there are always cycles. There are always things that are switching. The system, it rotates and it switches. So it is finding those as they swing, you are moving with that. You're moving with that tide. And the ones who transmute, stay ahead of the tide, or then they are the ones that everyone's like, oh my gosh, like you're successful. But success is really, Earl Nightingale said, like success is a worthy pursuit of a progressive realization of a worthy ideal. So you're progressively working at something that you love. That's it, period. You're not going to a job just for the money. And that's where those other benefits come in, the mental health benefits and stuff. Someone would take less money, whether they are closer to home, for their mental health. So it's what are those things that will help the employee? And you're engaged. That's the main thing, participating in your life, being engaged in that.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody has anything else to add? No. Okay, a quick question, and I'm just going to give you all a minute to answer it. So when you're looking at resume writing or interviews, because they're virtual, are there any tips for that? Quickly, let's go around and say a few tips, okay? Amanda, you want to go first?
Sure. So right off the bat, the most thing I see with resumes that I can't stand is tiny font with a ton of words on, just so much, especially when we're putting out jobs, we're getting tons of applications. I need to be able to skim, read it, and not get a headache. And so aesthetic actually is number one. Take a look at it and would you read? What are you going to read? What jumps out off the page, and have you put too much? So just don't overload it. And I would, the second tip I would have is hyperlink. A lot of people are not printing out resumes and sitting with a stack and reading through them. They're reading them online. And so make them interactive. Use that to your advantage. Link to a piece of work that you're mentioning, link to a website that you're referencing. So take advantage of hyperlinking and digital assets when trying to showcase yourself and your work. And I would say the third thing is with regard to references. This is a tip I give to my students too, who I teach at Ryerson, and that's, be really intentional with who you put as references. But people always get caught up. Do I put available upon request? Do I put their full contact info? And then am I letting them know? Seems like a small thing, but I know it can cause a lot of stress. And my tip is put the names and titles of the 3 people you intend to share, but hold back the contact information. It's kind of this in between, which is the sweet spot. So you have these names and maybe really impressive titles that show that they are going to vouch for you, but you don't have to keep bothering them because you've included their information and maybe they're not going to get a call. And so that allows you to still use people with clout and then only give the information once you're asked for it. All right, that's it from me.
Amazing. See, quick tips works always. MONISHA.
Resume, similar to what Amanda was mentioning, I think when people have, my rule is if you've worked in a role for more than 2 years, if you're putting in more than 4 or 5 bullets, why? Why are you putting that? And always have the most important bullets and most important achievements, like the first or second, because people don't have attention span. They would just skim through the resume. And if you don't have those important bullets up top of each of your roles, they would just be missed. Always mention awards. If you won any award, this just shows that you're going out above and beyond. People, I think you should not miss on that. On interviews, I think this is one of the things that I'm also learning is looking at the camera versus looking at the people. It's tough, but it's really like virtually it makes it very easy to make eye contact. Try to be as natural as possible. If you do many hand gestures like me, do it. If you don't do it. Don't be unnatural because it comes across the screen more than when you are in person.
Wow, thank you. Tracy.
So I'll take the interview position, and really it's posture and breathing and body motion, right? So it's, there's the power position when you're standing, and when you're sitting back and your shoulders are back. Right? So you're looking in and you're taking that deep breath. So whether before you get into the interview, you are taking a couple of breathing so that you are bringing yourself down. So inhale, exhale longer than you inhale. And then just that alone, just from, as you can see him slouching here to this posture shows confidence. Even if you might be like a little stuttering and stuff, but this body language shows who you are. Everyone knows that there are some interviews, people get nervous and stuff, but they can see the difference in the posture and then the breathing and then just taking that. That's your bread and butter. You already got the interview. When you're there, present yourself in that confident manner that you know.
Yeah. Amazing. I agree with everything that you guys said about resumes. With interviews, I just want to add one more thing. Don't get up 5 minutes ahead of the interview. Be prepared for the interview. Be there on time, although it is not in person, but be there on time and do a little bit of research about the company. Show some interest, what they're doing or what they want you to do. Show some interest if you're really interested. Otherwise, there's no point of you just wanting a job. You have to show that, you want to work for them and it is going to be like hiring you is the right thing that they will be doing, right? So those are my tips. And thank you so much, everyone. This was so much fun. Like I said earlier, we are all positive thinkers, and I think it's going to be very positive going back into post-pandemic, and there are going to be more jobs than we think. So what took when the pandemic hit, there was a decline in unemployment rate. there was an increase in unemployment rate, and which was the highest in a decade. In the meantime, the devastation to lives and livelihoods around the world caused by the pandemic still continues, and people are still getting used to the new norm. They're getting vaccinated, and some of them still don't want to get vaccinated. I would say it's going to be safe for everyone, so please go ahead and get yourselves vaccines. As the health crisis continues, it affects on employment also. And in addition, accelerated technology adoption risks creating a double disruption in labor markets, with many jobs unlikely to return. But at the same time, the overall projection for job creation for the next 5 years is still higher than those jobs lost. So we are expecting new jobs that are going to emerge due to the shift, and there are new demands which are going to come up. There is new technology which is happening, and there are newer sectors which are going to be coming into existence. Like there is green economy, care economy, education sector, and then there is data and AI as well. So all in all, what I'm trying to say is don't worry about the jobs. There is going to be a lot of jobs created. And when one door closes, another door opens or a window opens. So look for that window and just get in there. As humans and as a community, we always survive and we thrive. This is not going to be difficult for us. And remember that we have to be there for each other. We have to practice empathy. And very importantly, we have to learn and relearn. Don't please stop learning. That is the most important thing. And knowledge never ends. You have to keep gaining knowledge. So with that, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for coming here today and being on our platform, Public Allies. We are so happy that we won the Civic Award from the City of Pickering for 2020. And that is because of the support and love that everybody has been showing us, our guests, our viewers, and our community. So once again, thanks a lot. And we will see you next week again with a webinar with our very own in-house teammate, Jacob Leatherbridge. Thank you so much and have a good day.